The New York Times reports Kite Pharma, led by Dr. Arie Belldegrun, could be the first to market next year with a highly anticipated immunotherapy treatment which harnesses the body's immune system to attack cancer. This is key in treating cancer, and the New York Times reports that immunotherapy has rescued some patients from near certain death. Kite's treatment form of immunotherapy is called CAR-T, C-A-R-T, and it was initially developed by a federally funded team of researchers at the National Cancer Institute. So federally funded basically means that the American people's tax dollars paid for that research and development. Kite Pharma pays millions to the National Cancer Institute to support research and patents dedicated to the company. This is how Kite sells products like CAR-T. The New York Times reports that analysts expect Kite Pharma to charge at least $200,000 for CAR-T, which is intended as a one-time therapy for patients. So before we get into the issues, here's the process broken down if you're a more kinesthetic learner. The American people pay in taxes to fund the National Cancer Institute to fund cancer treatment. The National Cancer Institute uses the taxpayer money to fund research to create treatments like CAR-T. Pharmaceutical companies like Kite Pharma pay money to the National Cancer Institute to essentially buy patents and or other government support. Kite Pharma, as a separate third-party corporation, then sells the drugs and treatments like CAR-T back to the American people who funded the initial development of the treatment to begin with. Now, the issue here is that many taxpayers feel that they're paying twice for the same drug because, one, their initial tax dollars funded the research and development of the drug, and two, they have to buy the drug when federal partners like Kite Pharma sell it back to the public for what patients feel are questionable and unaffordable prices. Meanwhile, Kite Pharma as a corporation reaps all the financial profits despite American people funding the initial research and development of the product like CAR-T. However, others feel that the financial support that companies like Kite Pharma provide to the government for developments like CAR-T is fair, and that the companies can deliver treatments to patients in ways that the government cannot do by itself. So companies like Kite Pharma are basically saying, the government, you need companies, you need corporations to help you deliver. Imagine if the only way to send mail was through USPS, which is a government institution. There's no FedEx, there's no UPS. Government institutions are notoriously slow, and there are longer processes like the DMV, like getting a passport. It can take longer. So companies are saying, we can do this better, we can do this more efficiently, and it's for the American people. Therefore, we deserve, what they feel is a fair share of profits. Now, my personal opinion, since the American people at large agree that cancer research is important, and we support this by funding research and developments for cures and treatments, and the American people are the consumers and buyers of the treatments, they should be receiving proper value for their contributions and their role in the drug creation process. CAR-T wasn't just created by Kite Pharma. That it was created by the National Cancer Institute, a team within the National Cancer Institute who are funded by taxpayer money. The government has leverage to hedge better deals for the American people, where extremely ill patients aren't being charged $200,000 or other unaffordable fees for life-saving drugs. The government has the leverage to influence prices because companies like Kite rely largely on the legitimacy of publicly funded universities and academic labs for their own research and development of drugs. Also, by law, the National Institute of Health, which is the parent of the National Cancer Institute, has what are called march-in rights, which gives them the power to take back control of a patent on an invention made with federal funding, like CAR-T, if the drug is not being made available to the public on what they call reasonable terms. And obviously, what are reasonable terms? That is debated within the courts. But, therefore, the government can insist on fairer prices for the American people, theoretically. However, the money companies like Kite Pharma pay to the government for support and patents from taxpayer-funded institutions like the National Cancer Institute could possibly be going straight into the pockets of a myriad of pro-pharma politicians in Congress who seek to capitalize on desperately ill American citizens by allowing companies to charge unreasonable prices for widely unavailable life or death drugs. But I mean, business and in economics terms, it's a lucrative supply and demand model. And it's a model that many pharmaceutical companies, multinational corporations, utilize to exploit hundreds upon thousands of humans overseas in many countries like Africa, Asia, and in poverty and health-stricken countries like India, which is in Asia. It's alarming that the American government sees fit that the pharmaceutical industry be given this much power in America or elsewhere in any capacity, and it's all in the name of corporate profits. Theoretically, corporations reward their actors in the government with gracious gifts and donations as they stagnate this process of cancer cures, cancer treatments. I mean, after all, they have the money to give big gifts and donations if they plan on charging immunotherapy patients $200,000 or more for a life or death treatment. I mean, theoretically, of course.